Ever thought about what's really in the food you eat every day? You might not believe this, but one of the most common fruits, the banana, is actually slightly radioactive. Surprising, right? But before you start to worry about the effects of munching on this delicious yellow fruit, let's take a moment to explore this intriguing topic. What does it mean for a fruit to be radioactive? Why bananas specifically? And should you really care about this little-known fact? Stick around as we peel back the layers on the radioactive nature of bananas. First, let's dive into what we mean by radioactive. In the simplest terms, radioactivity is the process by which unstable atomic nuclei lose energy by emitting radiation. This may sound unnerving, but it's important to remember that not all radiation is harmful. In fact, we are exposed to some levels of natural radiation every day, from cosmic rays to radon gas in our homes. Our Earth is teeming with radioactive materials. It's all around us. So, what about bananas? Bananas contain a naturally occurring isotope called potassium-40. Potassium is an essential nutrient, vital for many bodily functions, including muscle contraction and nerve transmission. However, potassium-40 is a radioactive isotope, meaning it undergoes decay and emits radiation as it does. But don't panic. The levels of potassium in bananas are quite low, and the radiation they emit is minuscule. Now, you might be wondering, just how radioactive are bananas? To understand this, let's introduce a fun concept known as the banana equivalent dose. This is a way of measuring radiation exposure through bananas. One average banana can deliver about 0.1 microsieverts of radiation. For context, the average person is exposed to about 6,200 microsieverts of radiation annually from all sources, including natural background radiation. That means if you were to eat about 70 bananas in a day, you would be exposed to roughly the same level of radiation you'd get from a single chest X-ray. But who's eating 70 bananas in one day? Not many people, I hope. This leads us to an interesting question. Why do we find this kind of information about our food so alarming? It's fascinating, really. Our society has become increasingly aware of risks related to food safety, health, and nutrition. Media reports often sensationalize findings related to food content, leading us to sometimes fear safe, everyday items. Bananas, with their association with radioactive phenomena, are an example of how sensationalism can lead to misunderstanding and fear over something usually safe and nutritious. So, let's clear the air about the radiation in bananas. While they are indeed slightly radioactive, eating them poses no real health risk. In fact, bananas are a great source of dietary fiber, vitamins, and minerals. They're low in calories and high in potassium, which can help lower your blood pressure and support heart health. This shows how sometimes our fears can overshadow the benefits of something nutritious and delicious. Now, let's turn our attention to other foods that might surprise you with their radioactive qualities. Did you know that many other common foods contain some level of radioactivity? For instance, carrots, nuts, and even certain types of seafood also harbor naturally occurring radioactive isotopes. Similarly, Brazil nuts contain a lot of radium, a radioactive element, due to their growing conditions. While these foods do possess low levels of radioactivity, they are safe for average consumption throughout your life. This introduces a fascinating point about our daily diets. Our exposure to radioactivity coming from food is both natural and expected. The truth is, nearly all living organisms contain a trace amount of radioactive material due to the potassium isotopes that occur naturally in our environment. In some ways, we could say that a truly balanced diet would include a bit of radioactivity. Now, you may be thinking, if we consume and encounter rapacious amounts of radiation in everyday foods, why don't we hear more about it? This brings us to the importance of perspective when it comes to risk. Despite what we may hear or read, the amount of radiation in bananas and other foods is negligible when analyzed against other forms of radiation exposure. For example, we receive significantly higher doses through medical imaging or even environmental exposure from natural sources. This also leads us to another key question. Should we worry about radiation in our food? The simple answer is no. The levels we see in bananas and other food sources are considered safe and part of a normal lifestyle. Regulatory authorities throughout the world, like the FDA and WHO, work to ensure that our food safety standards are stringent and that radiation levels are well below any harmful threshold. Now, if you've found this topic interesting or perhaps a bit alarming, let's talk about why it's essential to stay informed. In our pursuit of healthy eating habits, we often stumble upon articles and advertisements that either overemphasize dangers or promote trends without proper context. It's crucial to cultivate a balanced perspective about food, nutrition, and health, to celebrate what we eat while understanding what lies behind our food choices. This clarity can help us avoid falling victim to potentially misleading information or health trends that may not have solid backing. Just like the banana, something so simple and seemingly benign can reveal complex attributes about how our food interacts with our bodies and how our bodies interact with nature. And as we wrap up, let's reflect on what we've learned today. Bananas do contain a small amount of natural radioactivity due to potassium-40, but the levels are incredibly low and not harmful to us. Instead of fearing this fascinating aspect of bananas, let's celebrate them for their health benefits. They are an excellent source of nutrition and energy that we can enjoy without worry. So, the next time you peel a banana, remember, you're not just enjoying a delicious treat. You're participating in the natural cycle of life, where even the most ordinary things, like bananas, can carry extraordinary qualities. And who knows, this newfound knowledge might even make you appreciate your morning smoothie just a little bit more. Thank you for joining me today on this deep dive into the world of bananas and their surprising radioactive nature. If you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. What other foods do you wonder about in terms of health? I can't wait to hear from you.